Okay, we're gonna start, ladies. Just a really quick recap. What are we doing here? What's the unit we're doing in Ramchal now? We're talking about this period of time from Pesach to Shavuot, the journey from Yetzias Mitzrayim to Kabbalah Torah. That is the theme. Trying to understand this period of time. Right? I mentioned to you yesterday, our last class, statement from the Rashash, who was one of the big Talmidim of the Ari, from Shimon Sharabi, who said that this period of time is so important. You miss out on what you can get out of this one, and you can't make it up. You have to wait till next year to do it again. It's a very, very important period of time. And we're trying to understand what is this really, what is it? And it's like you could miss the whole thing, right? You make a big splash of a Pesach, and everybody has cheesecake on Shavuos, and everybody forgets the time in between. Very, very easy to sort of skip over it. But the people understand these things, not myself included, but the holy people understand that this is a super important time. And what the time is really all about really cuts the very essence, not only this period of time, but the essence of what it is to be human, which is that we're in that unique situation where we bond together both a presence in the physical world and the fact that we have this thing called Tzelem Elokim on the inside. We are the only ones that are able to putting these two things together. We live in the physical world without man understanding, interpreting, connecting to that world, connecting what's inside of it to that world. The meaningless physical world. You want meaning in your world, the only one who can do that is you. You're the one who can put it in there. Humanity in general, that's our responsibility. We talk about the fact that what we're doing during this period of time in order to do that is we're trying to bring these two realms together. That looks like in terms of our own personal avoda, it's what we call tikkun midas. Tikkun midas, midot. The midot are those drives within us are really the consequence of the fact that the neshama comes together with the goof. That's the bridge between the two. That's what makes each one of us unique in terms of, hi, whoever you are. Somebody was Shira there. Okay, now he's hiding. Bye-bye. Whatever. Anyway, yeah. So we're trying to pull these two things together. Tikkun midas is really what we're doing is we're developing the connection between these two assets of our being so that they can integrate together. That's what it's all about. And I mentioned this thing from Rav Dessler, this amazing idea that where your humanity lies is where these two merge. Right? He talked about the fact that even though Spark, what he really wants from you is that inner sense of connectedness to him, but the reason why the mitzvahs are so important is because what it is to be a human being is the merging between these two. And if your ideals don't express themselves in action, meaning if you don't bring yourself to the point where there's a compulsion, any ideal you feel, an ideal that you feel is something you need to act upon, that is the clear sign that ideal is not something which is actually part of you. It's just an idea that's floating around inside of your head. Again, Tikkun midas, we're trying to bring these two things together so that those ideals that we feel are things that we bring out. We have that compelling need to make it a reality in the world in terms of ourselves, and that really is the integration of our humanity, and that's what we need to do to bring meaning to our world, to bring the Shekhinah into physical reality. So it's not just a fantasy, it's not just an idea, it becomes a reality. It becomes a reality in our own personhood.
Stop.
What happened? Gabby Berg, you okay? Oh, wait, Naomi, what happened? Okay, whatever. Anyway, yeah. All right. Anyway, yeah, go back to the real world. Anyway, so we wanted to understand, yes, in last class, we're trying to put together the idea of, how does this all connect up with the Omer? We're counting from the Omer. What we did last class is we realized that the whole point of the Omer, the fact that the Omer is called Omer, that word Omer is really a measurement. It's a measurement that's common in the Torah, but it very, very rarely is called an Omer. It's called an Omer by our carbon over here, and it's called an Omer measuring the amount of man that each individual got in the midbar. What was going on by giving this name to the carbon? What we're really doing is we're highlighting what it's really all about. The point of that Omer is I bring grain that I created through my own efforts, and I can't eat it even though I'm the one who made it until I connect it back to the man. That unique characteristic of the man is the fact that the man is the bread that made absolutely clear it's coming from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So even though I don't know, any of you got gardens in your houses over there? Akara, you're in Florida, you gotta have a garden back there someplace, or it just gets flooded every time it rains. You do, there you go, I told you, I knew it. And I know Lassie, and she's in Los Angeles, she has a garden also, right? A tomato or something? Absolutely nothing, right? You just eat noodles. Whatever. Anyway, yeah. What? You have a garden?
Yeah, we have
Who else got a garden? Philadelphia, you got a garden in Philadelphia? Where's Malky?
We have an orange
No,
tree.
absolutely not.
It's got an orange tree. Tara, where'd Malky go? Did Malky disappear?
No, I'm still here.
Where are you? I don't see you. Raise your
I don't
wave
know.
so I can see you. Hey, yeah, do you have a garden in Philadelphia? You got a garden in the
No,
backyard? No
no,
bark, a potted plant, something?
not in Philadelphia.
All right, whatever. Anyway, your next project when you're bored, right? Bottom line is you put in a lot of work growing something, and you fertilize it, you plant whatever, you get a sense that I'm the one who made this thing, but it's completely wrong. Your efforts created a vessel that a Kadosh Baruch Hu could fill with his bracha. Right? It's all coming from, you think of the things, for all the work that I did, when you think about what a Kadosh Baruch Hu contributed, he created the water, he created the wind, he created the sun, created the biology. This is the basis of the growing of the plant. It's all we're frosting, and we put our efforts are frosting on the cake. I'm not saying you didn't do anything, but you have to understand all you're doing is you're building on the gifts of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and really the man, we didn't do anything. That's the thing that made clear that it's coming from Hashem, right? But when we connect the things that we did grow with our efforts to the man, say, I can't eat that thing that I made with my own efforts until I connect it to the man. Open is I'm going out of my way to make that connection and say, even though I put in all this work, I have to recognize the contribution that it's from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and I'm just a little piece on top of that. Another way of putting that term, and it is like, if you want an idea, a phrase to hold in your mind in terms of what we're saying is, we're trying to get to the point where we don't live in the world, we live through the world. Okay? The world is the place in which we're doing what we're doing, but it's a medium in which we are connecting to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's what it's all about. And that's what this whole period of time is about. And we're trying to elevate ourselves above the natural world where I'm just surviving, I'm just living to survive. And I want to get to the point where I'm connected to a purpose higher than that, and that gives meaning, and that gives direction, and that gives structure to my life and my world. I'm living through the world, I'm not living in the world. Okay. All right. So I want to take this whole idea a step further with amazing medrash. This medrash is like mind-blowing because it's so strange. I'm going to share my thing with you so you can take a quick look at it. It's short. Always the hardest ones are always the short ones. Here we go. Can you see that? Everybody see that? I'll shout at once because you're muted. Actually, you all can shout at once because you're muted. Go ahead, shout as much as you like. Anyway, I can't hear
we can see.
There you go. Okay, finally a volunteer. Look at this medrash at the top over here. Okay, right up there, right? Li'olam al tehei mitzvah Omer kala beinecha. You should not let the mitzvah of the Omer be light in your eyes. Al yedei mitzvah Omer zocha Avram liyaresh es Eretz Yisrael, Eretz Canaan, right? Through the mitzvah of the Omer, Avram Avinu merited liyaresh, to inherit the land of Canaan. Okay, that's a big deal on its own. But look at the proof text. Thus it says, "Natati lecha lezarecha acharecha." I'm going to give it to you. It's talking about the land over there, to you and your seed after you. Omanat, on the condition that va'ata et brisi tishmor, on the condition that you keep my bris. Ezezeh, and which one is this bris that we're talking about? The mitzvah of the Omer. Look at that. Okay, we have explicit psukim that are saying it's going to give the land to you, to Avram, and to your seed afterwards, on the condition that you keep my bris. What's it talking about? It's talking about the Omer. Okay? Now, is that amazing? Are you completely bewildered by this? No. It's okay so far. But the problem is like this. I shouldn't have taken the sharing of the screen off so quickly. Let's go look at those psukim that are being quoted over there. They're being quoted from over here, the end of Parshas Lech Lecha. Okay? Avram ben Tishim Shana, V'Teisha Shanim. When Avram was 99 years old, the Kadosh Baruch Hu appeared to him. It was Avram at that point, and he said to him, I am El Shaddai, go before me and be perfect. And it goes on, Avram fell on his face at the vision over there, right? I'm not going to call your name anymore. Avram is going to be Avraham. Maybe some of you figured out what we're talking about over here. Now comes the psukim that are quoted in our medrash. Nesati lecha lezarecha acharecha es eretz migurecha. I'm going to give to you and to your seed afterwards the land that you're traveling through, Eretz Canaan. It's going to be a permanent ownership. You're going to own it. And I'm going to be to you for you for God. Now we're going further. Here it is. Vayomer Elokim El Avram Va'ata es Brisi Tishmor. That's the pasuk quoted. Guard my bris. What Zos Brisi Asher Tishmor? This is about the bris that you're going to have to guard. Himo Lachem Kol Zachar. It's bris Mila. What is going on here? Right, here's our medrash. It says the mitzvah of Omer should not be Kalabei Necha, because through that mitzvah, Abram was Zocha Liyarish as Eretz Canaan. It brings psukim. Why? The psukim, Natati L'chol L'zarecha Acharecha, I'm going to give to you the land of Canaan and to your seed, meaning forever. Almanat, on the condition that you, Brisi Tishmor, on the condition that you guard my bris. We know what that's talking about because we just saw the psukim. It said it explicitly. The bris we're talking about is bris Mila. But comes the medrash to say, Ezazet, which bris are we talking about? Right there. Mitzvah sa Omer. Very, very strange medrash, right? Okay, the medrash is nice. It tells me that the Mila is an important. Oh yeah. The medrash is quaint, nice. It's telling me that the mitzvah of Omer is something that's going to cause me to get Eretz Yisrael. That's nice. That needs to be explained. Okay, that needs to be explained, but it's fine so far. The psukim that it brings to prove it is that where the psukim tell us if I guard the bris, then I'm going to get Eretz Yisrael. The psukim are explicitly talking about bris milah. Like what's going on over here? How do you suddenly substitute the mitzvah of the Omer for the bris milah? In fact, why even calling it a bris? Right? The Omer was a carbon. It's a mitzvah. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that the carbon Omer is that it's a bris. It's a mitzvah. It's a carbon. I'm keeping this bris. It's not a bris. What's going on over here? And what are you doing if it's talking about bris milah? How can you suddenly say it's Omer? And the carbon Omer. I'm bringing a bunch of barley. Bringing barley onto the mizbeach. What does that have to do with the bris milah? How do you put all these things together? Okay. Yeah. Everybody excited? This is interesting. It's a very strange medrash. I mean, it's very, very provocative. Like, what's going on over here? We're going to be working with some Torah from Moshe Shapiro now as we try to explain this thing. So the first thing we want to ask ourselves is, the medrash is coming to tell me that the Omer, in the merit of the Omer, we get Eretz Yisrael, we inherit Eretz Yisrael. And it does that by bringing psukim to talk about the fact that Avram Avinu was explicitly given Eretz Yisrael because of the bris milah. I think the starting point here is try to understand what is the mitzvah of Mila? Why is that, or we can start with this. Why is it that Mila gives me Eretz Yisrael? What is the mitzvah of Mila? And then if I can connect up what the mitzvah of Mila is to what the mitzvah of the Omer is, I'll understand why it is that the Medrash is conflating these two ideas together, the bris milah with the Omer. I can show the essential connection between what the Mila is about, what Omer is about, and how that's connected to inheriting Eretz Yisrael. Then we'll have the key to this matter. First of all, what was the Mila? So in those psukim that I showed you before, at the beginning of them, he's called Avram, and he's told in the midst of getting the bris milah, his name is going to change from Avram to Abraham. I may have mentioned this a few once before earlier on during the year. The Rashi quotes the Medrash is explaining what's the significance of the bris milah? What's the significance of that name change that Avram is going to Avram when he's getting the bris milah? That's for a very simple reason. Okay, now who's going to be studying math in college next year? Raise your hands. You can help me out. No, there we go. Chana Eli. Okay, so what's the numerical value of the name Avram?
You mean with like gematria?
Yeah.
I can do it on paper if you want.
So I'll help you out. Avram, right? Aleph Beis is 3.
Together.
And the mem at the end is going to make it
43.
And the Reish is how much?
200 or 300?
200.
200?
So the significance of the name Avram is 243. Is everybody excited about that? Everybody knows what that medrash, what that number is. What's the significance of number 243? Answer
Avram.
is
Nothing.
absolutely nothing. Exactly. But if you add 5, then what is it?
248, which is a positive mitzvah.
It's the positive mitzvahs and also the number of limbs that we have in the body, according to the way Chazal break up the human body. Right? Both of those are connected to one another. So the Medrash explains that the one that Rashi quotes is as a consequence of the Bris Mila. Abraham went from being able to utilize 243 of his 248 limbs in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, being able to use all 248. And it explicitly says over there, until that time, he wasn't able to control his eyes, wasn't able to control his ears, he wasn't able to control the Bris Mila. These are the parts of your body that connect you to the world around you. As a result of that, you're drawn after all kinds of things, right? Your eyes immediately turn to the things you're not supposed to be looking at, and your ears are always perk up. Not when Rabbi Kagan is teaching words of Torah, but when the Lashon Hara is over the other side of the room. That's when the ear starts to. Anyway, yeah, no chas v'chalil, no Lashon Hara in the house, and therefore we can sit and listen to Torah. But the bottom line is that it's not so easy to control the eyes and the ears, because they are so much connected to the world around us, right? And obviously the Bris Mila in its own way, also the most powerful of them all, right? How do you learn? So the whole point is that Avram Avinu, when he got the Bris Mila, what happened was that he came to the point where he was able to utilize every aspect of his humanity and his personality in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? We talked about the fact that before he got the Bris Mila, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu appeared to him to give him the actual mitzvah, it says he fell on his face, which is the normal for Nevi'im. Go into like a catatonic, epileptic seizure kind of thing, just because the energy coursing through them in the course of Nevuah is just something that you can't process it. It's just too much, right? It's like if you stick your hand in an electric socket, what happens? Well, hopefully you have the thing in the electric box, so what happens is the electricity turns off. But in the good old days when I was growing up, I used to do that, which I used to do with some frequency, which probably explains why I am like I am, but whatever. Yeah, when you stick your hand in the socket, boom, you get thrown across the room, like your hair. I mean, maybe that's why my hair used to be curly. I guess I haven't done it recently, so that's why my hair got straight. But anyway, bottom line is you can't process that energy. It's just way too much. It just goes through you, and that's why you like collapse. And that's what it was like to have Nevuah. But after Avram got the Bris Mila, the very next psukim is the beginning of Parshas Vayera, where Kadosh Baruch Hu appears to him in the tent, and Avram is sitting in the tent and speaking with Kadosh Baruch Hu. He's not knocked out anymore, which means that as a consequence of the Mila, the energy coursing of Nevuah coursing through is no longer too much for him. He can actually sit with it. He can actually contain it, actually use it. The idea over there is that when the Shekhinah connected up to him before the Bris Mila, the idea, exactly like this idea of sticking your hand in the socket, there's energy that has no place to go. But once he had that Bris Mila, he became a perfect instrument, a perfect bridge, a person conduit to the energy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu come into the world in an appropriate way. That every single limb of his body was now a medium of mitzvahs, a medium of service. So now, Taka, he become that bridge for HaKadosh Baruch Hu into the world, and the energy is no longer exploding him, it's passing through him in an ordered fashion and doing what it is that it's supposed to be doing. This is the significance of the Bris Mila. That's why the Bris Mila actually closes off Parshas Lech Lecha and then introduces Parshas Vayera, because we're actually having the transition here when Avram has reached the point where he's really become this complete Eved of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now what's going to happen is there's a whole other stage in the development of Avram where all those things are going to start to come into the world and express themselves. In other words, in a certain sense, Lech Lecha is the time when he's growing to this point, and coming to that point now, the whole nature of Avram's service is completely different, and that's why Parshas Vayera is so different from Parshas Lech Lecha. Anyway, why does it make sense, if that's what the Bris Mila is all about, why does it make sense that that is what allowed Abraham to inherit Eretz Yisrael? So you have to ask yourself, well, what's Eretz Yisrael really all about? That brings us to a famous medrash, which I'll show you the pasuk at least. Right, we don't have to go inside it too much, but this pasuk over here in Devarim, right, is the pasuk that's in the very beginning of Devarim. We get the parsha of the Meraglim again, and what we're told over there is when the Meraglim came back and gave their report to Bnei Yisrael. It says Tiragnu bo lehem. They went and they were complaining and everything inside of their tents, and they said, "Sinas Hashem otanu." The hatred of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hotzianu Mieres Mitzrayim. He brought us out from Mitzrayim. Give to us this land in order to destroy us. Right? The report of the Meraglim left the Jews to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us the land not because he loves us, but because he hates us. Because he's taken us out of Mitzrayim in order to do this. Now, what Rashi says over there, they were saying was, what's going on over here? When we were in Mitzrayim, we had all the water we needed whenever we needed it. The Nile was basically a calendar. Right? They knew exactly when the water was coming. They knew how much water was coming. It always came at exactly the same time. That was what turned Mitzrayim into the bread basket of the ancient world. Right? When the Romans conquered Egypt, it fed the entire empire. Egypt was a fabulously wealthy country. You go back far enough in the time of the pharaohs. The reason for that was because it was perfect. It was tailor-made for agriculture. Right? Every year, at exactly the right time, the water rose up. Not only did it water the land, but also brought very fertile silt all across the land, and everything grew there. And it was just lush. And they had everything that they needed on time. Shapiro took them out of Egypt and brought them to Eretz Yisrael. When the Meraglim came back from Eretz Yisrael, they said, "No, there's no rivers there. It's dependent on rain, right?" And here are the Jews saying, "You see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hates us. He took us from a place where everything was totally it was like clockwork over there. And so we're dependent on the rain over here. What's going on?" So the Mefarshim explained that this particular claim of the Jews really showed why it is that as a result of the Meraglim came the decree that they weren't going to be able to go into Eretz Yisrael, that they weren't worthy of Eretz Yisrael. And I told you this story. You probably remember. I think that Rabbi Leff. I told you the story himself at one point. I made up a metaphor to explain this, and then a couple years later, I actually heard Rabbi Leff tell the story. Say the story actually happened to him. Remember, I told you the story about that Rabbi Leff was once called into the public school in Miami because there was a Jewish kid there that was suicidal. Who remembers this story? Yeah, right. So he goes. So they went through the yellow pages, look under Rabbi, and Rabbi Leff came up first because I guess he spells his name with an aleph when he's in America. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, he got called in. He's sitting there talking to the kid, right? He says, what's the problem? What's wrong? And he holds up a set of car keys. And he points to the sports car outside. Says, "You see that car over there? That's mine." And then he puts his hand in his pocket. He pulls out a credit card. He says, "You see this credit card? This credit card is mine. Always full. Whatever I want, I can always buy." And we said, "Okay, yeah, no." He says, "The story is that my mother died. My father was raising me. And he met a woman that he wanted to marry. And she was willing to marry him as long as he cut off from everything of his past life with his first wife." He called me into his room, into his office. He said, "Son, see these keys? These keys go to that car. This car is yours. You see this credit card? It will always have money in it. It's your credit card. But don't call." Right? He became suicidal as a result of that. Meaning, what are we learning from this story? That's actually a sensitive kid. I mean, most people, if you ask a teenager if they want to ask dad for money or just have a credit card, everyone would want the credit card. Okay? But remember, we're doing hashkaf here. We're trying to understand the deeper side of things. Right? It's like maybe after a while, if you have to live by yourself with that credit card, you start to remember what you really want is relationships with people. And the whole idea there is, what do you want? Do you want to have the opportunity where money becomes a medium through which you have a relationship with your parents, or you just want the money? You just want the objects. You just want, you just want the things. Do you want the things? You want the relationships. So really the whole idea of this, when the Jews rejected Eretz Yisrael because it was dependent on rain, how do you get the rain? You have to, everybody say it? You have to ask. You have to ask. If you got it. The whole point of the Nile was exactly the opposite of this. They counted on it. Pharaoh was in big trouble if the Nile didn't come up on time. It was his fault. It was expected it was going to be there. You didn't need anybody to do anything, right? It was coming. Over in Eretz Yisrael, you want rain, you have to ask Dad. You got to turn to him. You got to recognize the relationship. And that's exactly what Eretz Yisrael is. It's a medium for relationship. That's what makes it Eretz HaKodesh. That's what makes it Eretz Yisrael. That's what makes it the place that's uniquely suited for Klal Yisrael, meaning Klal Yisrael is all about the relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And this is a land that fosters, facilitates, catalyzes that relationship. You have to turn to the Kadosh Baruch Hu for your needs. It's not just a natural environment that works like a clock that you can simply manipulate to your own ends and forget about the larger context. That's not what Eretz Yisrael is about. What Eretz Yisrael is all about, it's an opportunity for relationship. Everything about it is designed exactly for that. We understand that, in fact, when we lose Eretz Yisrael, it's because we forget that idea. The first Beis Hamikdash, one of the reasons it was destroyed is because they stopped going to Shemitah. The whole idea of the Shemitah is you recognize this is the Kadosh Baruch Hu's land, right? We're using his land, and it's we're effectively indentured servants on his land, right? It's his gift. You have to remember always it's that medium for the connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Understand that's what Eretz Yisrael is really all about, then I think we can understand why it is specifically the mitzvah of Mila is the thing that gave Abraham the schus, the merit to inherit Eretz Yisrael, because again, through the Bris Mila, Avram made of himself a medium of service and connection to Kadosh Baruch Hu. There was nothing there anymore that was existing for a purely disconnected, selfish purpose. Again, I'm not saying by this is that you're not supposed to have pleasure in life. Obviously, you're supposed to have pleasure in life. You always want to connect that back to Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's got to be in the context of the relationship. It exists as something completely cut off in its own isolated thing. That's when we get in trouble. The whole point of Bris Mila is Avram brought himself to the point where he could recognize everything was taking place in the context of that relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That was, so again, when you become that person, then you can live in Eretz Yisrael, where Eretz Yisrael is itself also just the medium for the connection. They really sort of echo one another, which I think if we get that, again, always coming back to that phrase that I gave you at the beginning, which is that we don't want to live in the world, we want to live through the world. We want it to be a medium, something larger, right? When we talk about, you can use whatever language you're comfortable with. The medium for relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's a way of living in the world for higher ideals than just your own individual selfish needs. It's living with a purpose. Living above that physical world, so that what you're getting out of that physical world, it's just not a process of getting through. Like I asked you last class when we were doing the man, where does your satisfaction come from? Right? We all, I mean, obviously it's all process, but we talked about the idea of comfort food. Comfort food is that extra satisfaction that I'm getting from those physical experiences is what gets me through. I'm not just surviving. I'm actually having these experiences of pleasure that go beyond just survival. That's pretty low level, and we want to get beyond that, or we want to use that in that higher context where it's not just a physical thing for me, but I'm living for this higher purpose. I become a giver and not a taker, whatever language you're comfortable with. Each of you as individuals will come up with your own language. You know, saying I'm here to serve God is pretty dead language, or the king, Malchus. These are dead languages for us now. You have to find a language that's alive for you. But they always have to be saying that same idea, right? So if you understand that way, then bring us back to what we said about we're trying to understand how does the Omer, in a certain sense, slot in for Bris Mila in terms of our marrying the land. So what we talked about last time, that the man means I got to connect the crops that I grow with my own hands back to the gift of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, which is what the man was all about, right? Effectively, whatever I grow, it's just man. It's man. It's like saying that, you know, like we all have enough intelligence to recognize that the apples didn't grow in the supermarket, right? The supermarket is serving them, but they have to grow someplace. There's a larger context to it. So it's true that I'm putting in all this work to grow these things, but there's a larger context to it that ultimately I have to recognize it's the gift of a Kadosh Baruch Hu that my efforts create the vessel for the gift. Again, I'm not living in the world, I'm living through the world. I'm seeing that higher context, and I'm living my life in the context of that. higher context. That's what the man is all. That's what the Omer is about. I can't eat any of the stuff I grew until I make that connection. The idea is once I've made that connection, everything that comes afterwards is like an extension of that Omer. This is the very, very, very first grain of the entire season. That's what goes up on the altar. And then everything that comes afterwards is an extension of that. I want to be able to connect that back. If I can do that with my efforts, I can live in Eretz Yisrael. I can go out there. I can work. I can grow my crops. But those growing all those crops, the successes that I have through my own efforts of growing those crops, don't cut me off from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. They just bind me more deeply to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Because I recognize those efforts aren't creating the grain, they're creating the vessel of the bracha from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. We'll take it one little step further to sort of finish off. We asked why it is, how can you call this Korban Omer a bris, a brit, a covenant, right? We don't see that language applied anywhere. It's a carbon, it's a mitzvah like any other. Like, so why does it qualify? How can a pasuk that talks about a brit, meaning the Brit Mila, be one that I understand to really be hinting towards the Korban Omer? In what sense is Korban Omer like a brit? The famous Ramban says the word brit is from the word bri'ah, which means what? Means creation. Now, on a pshat level, what that means is every covenant is a creation of something new. Mirz Hashem, June 15th is not so far away. I expect you all to be engaged by the 16th of June, right? What's going to happen there when you find Mr. Right or Mr. Mitzvah, whatever you want to call him, right? And you get married. The whole idea of marriage is that's a covenant where you create something new. The two of you together create something called a couple. Really, you would usually create a human being. A human being is sort of the combination of the chassan and kala. But that marriage, like a covenant, it's a new creation. Like you both cease to be individuals unto yourself and now exist in the context of the couple. That's what any brit, any covenant is a creation of creation something new. But whenever that covenant is the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the only way it can be a connection to Kadosh Baruch Hu is if you connect up to Maisa Bereshit, right? The Ramban was telling us the root of the word brit, meaning covenant, from the word bri'ah, meaning creation. There's two levels to that. Every covenant is a creation. Ultimately, any covenant with a Kadosh Baruch Hu has to connect me. I can't be connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu unless I'm connected back to Maisa Bereshit, right? After the world is created, coming from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And the whole point is that the Omer, when the whole bring of that Omer, the whole bring of the Omer, I'll just add one other thing, which is, I think, a nice thing, which is the pasuk. Here, I'll give you, look at this pasuk over here. One last share for you before we go our merry ways here. Take a look at this pasuk over here. Okay, this is a well-known pasuk, but down here. But this one. Ela toldos hashamayim va'aretz behi bar am. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth in their being created. It says the Medrash that bar am, the language of Abraham, right? For the sake of Abraham. What that really is telling you is the fact that the word Behi Bar'am means Be'avraham. What it's telling you is the reason why Abraham is this choice, selected person, the purpose of creation, is because he's the one that's always aware of the length of Behi Bar'am, the fact that the world is a created place. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful medrash over there, but that's what it really means. Is the letters Behi Baram and Abraham are the same letters because it really hints to you what it is that made Abraham so great that the Medrash should say that the world was created for him, because he's a person who never forgets Maisa Bereshis. The idea of making a bris with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, a bris with the Kadosh Baruch Hu was made with a person or with a nation who never forgets Maisa Bereshis. But certainly when you're talking about the Avos, this was their distinguishing characteristic. Each in his own way was never disconnected from Maisa Bereshis, right? We understand that's what Bris is all about. When you're talking about Bris with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that's what it's all about. Then we understand that the Omer, because of what it is, the fact that I'm the one who's working in the world, I'm always remembering. I'm remembering back to the fact that it's all coming from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, brings me directly back to Maisa Bereshis. Or I'm going to put it another way, it brings me back Yetzias Mitzrayim, where I saw the miracles that made me aware, even though I wasn't present for my separation, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was the creator, right? This is what the Omer is all about. It brings me back to my separation, or if you prefer, it brings me back to Yetzias Mitzrayim. That's my base. That's my foundation. The miracles that were there made us, well, we don't see them anymore. We're not living in a world of miracles, but we had that experience. The whole idea in our historical past, the whole idea of coming back and celebrating Yetzias Mitzrayim, Pesach every year, is I'm trying to reconnect to the fact that was a living reality for me at a certain period of time. That's our my separations experience. The Omer, by bringing us back to that, is in a certain sense, is really kind of a covenant. It's kind of a brit. It's a bria. It connects me back to that bria. And because it's only when I live in that kind of reality that I can live in Eretz Yisrael, where Eretz Yisrael doesn't distract or separate me from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, but it connects me back to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, where I can work in it and create things. I have the schus of having a land. I can work without losing sight of the deeper context that is from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's what gives us Eretz Yisrael, and that's what the Korban Omer is all about. Okay, ladies, it's late. You're very patient. Okay, anybody wants a source sheet, just let me know. I'm happy to send it off to you. And sayonara is Hebrew for goodbye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Have a great Shabbos. Great Shabbos, everybody. Have a great Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, bye-bye.
Oh.
How you doing?
I'm good. Wait, I can't leave.
I feel the same way, Naomi. Okay,
Bye,
we have to talk. I know you want to do credits. Maybe we talk later tonight if you want. Okay, bye.